This is the Supreme Court building where the 15 justices of the highest court of the land hold office. In the judicial firmament, the Supreme Court is the apex of the hierarchical climb, the pinnacle of every judge's and lawyer's aspirations. But the road to this destination is not the same for everyone. The journey far from equal. HerStory is a study in gender diversity and mobility in the Philippine judiciary. It illustrates the growing equality and diversity in our trial courts, but at the same time presents a picture of the continuing gender imbalance in the collegiate courts, including the Supreme Court. Behind the statistics, however, lie the very real stories of the women who people our courts and dispense justice as a way of life. How did they end up on the bench? How has their gender influenced their actions? What challenges have they faced in their respective journeys? Let us listen to her story.
I did not plan on becoming a judge, although it was always my parents' dream to have a judge in the family. I pursued a career in corporate practice, which I was engaged in for 15 years. It was not until my best friend, recently retired Supreme Court Justice and now Philja Chancellor, Justice Rory Carandang's appointment as Regional Trial Court Judge in Manila, that my interest in the judicial service was piqued. She would always share to me her experiences as a judge, which inspired me to apply as well. The rest is now history. Going through all the levels of the judicial ladder as a female career jurist, I can undoubtedly say that furthering the cause of justice has given me an incomparable sense of fulfillment. While men have traditionally dominated the upper echelons of government, my gender has never stifled my aspiration to serve the Filipino people to the best of my ability.
I was called to public service early on. I was a public school teacher at the La Candula High School in Tondo, at the Ramon Magsaysay High School, and at the Manila Science High School. While I was teaching, I was also studying law. Despite being a working student, I was blessed to graduate in 4 years and dedicate my medal as class valedictorian to the two great women in my life, my widowed mother Sigma and my blessed single aunt Libertad. Continuing on this path, I decided to join the office of the Solicitor General and rose to third in precedence as an Assistant Solicitor General after 24 years as a government advocate. By then, I felt ready to take the next step in my professional journey, and so I applied as an Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals. I also felt that my departure from the OSG will give room for the next generation of female solicitors to rise and claim a place in the upper tier.
My story is not common. I was already a judge of the municipal trial court in a small town in Pampanga when I was appointed as chairperson of the Land Transportation Franchising and Regulatory Board, or LTFRB, and later on concurrently Assistant Secretary for Land Transportation. Back then, the executive department was still what we may call an exclusive men's club. And in a world dominated by male public utility vehicle operators, owners, and drivers, a woman-directed and regulated traffic. That was me. Later, I was appointed as Commissioner of the Commission on Elections. I was involved in a much-publicized gender issue when an elderly male colleague, a junior at that, kissed me in his chambers. I rejected all advances and fought to the consequent fallout. When my term was about to be completed, the call to return to the judiciary became irresistible. I accepted the nomination and I was appointed as Associate Justice of the Court of Appeals. Now, I am presiding justice.
It may be said that I was thrown neck deep into the waters of the judiciary when I was appointed as the presiding justice of the Sandigan Bayan, barely a year after joining the court and serving 30 years in the OSG. I had to really swim for my life. Imagine such an appointment. First, into a male-dominated court, and second, into what may be characterized as a quantum leap to the top seat. In an institution steeped in tradition and just as patriarchal as the rest of Philippine society, the most jarring factor to many was probably that I was a woman. I heard all sorts of criticisms. However, I readily took on the challenge by buckling down to work, focusing on the results, and leading by example. The accomplishments of the court under my leadership are my answer to all the doubts and what ifs. Work is work, but being a woman means being held up to a higher standard every time. For me, that high standard has been a way of life.
I've served my country for more than 31 years in the judiciary as a branch clerk of court, as a metropolitan trial court judge, and lately, for the last 19 years, as a regional trial court judge. There have been times in the past that the way I look and comport myself has invited not just looks and whispers, but direct questions. So how do I respond? I would just routinely smile and shrug and just focus on my work. We live in a society that's outwardly liberal and liberated, but which is at heart very, very traditional and weighed down by the structures of culture, religion, and our general history as a people. These feed stereotypes and biases that continue to cloud both our collective and individual consciousness and influence our judgments. These are very real challenges to diversity and equality in the judiciary. After almost 3 decades in this institution, I still get a second look. But hopefully now, it is because they know who I am and proud of the work I've done.
Mens sana in corpore sano. The work of a judge is full-time, or rather, it is unending. There are no rest days or holidays. Even while you're already in bed about to sleep at night, you are either mentally reviewing your work you did earlier that day or mentally preparing for your hearings on the following day. It is work that requires a healthy person's vigor and strength, both physically and mentally. In 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. At that point, all I could think of was working on extending my life as long as possible, and to that end, eliminate all aggravating factors that could worsen my medical state, my job being the heaviest stress source. But I asked myself, am I ready to concede that I am no longer able and fit to be a judge? Thankfully, I am a woman of great faith and determination. I underwent treatment and experienced the oft-portrayed side effects like nausea, vomiting, loss of my hair, fatigue, including chemo brain. I was physically and emotionally drained because of the treatments. But I did not give up. I held on to the image of the gavel I will during court sessions because for me, it is a symbol of strength and decisiveness. Yes, I decided that I will not allow cancer to define me. I was going to fight and survive. So here I am, I beat cancer, and I have remained in my post. Whatever trials await me in the future no longer intimidate me. Cancer has taught me to be strong beyond my imagination.
I come from humble beginnings is often heard as an auspicious start of a success story. But for me, it is inadequate to describe the spectrum of challenges and experiences born of economic want. In particular, for someone whose dream is to sit on the bench, donning the black judicial robe, economics poses a huge hindrance to diversity and mobility. The opportunities are simply not equal for those who can afford to study without working, for those who have a choice of schools to go to and get their degrees from. I did not have these choices. I worked to support myself through law school as a court interpreter, studying at night, usually ending my day past midnight. Already a mother of 4 then, I scrimped on every peso, sticking on the basic necessities, and depriving myself of even the smallest luxuries. Oftentimes, I had to rely on the help of my mother and other siblings. The joy I had when I graduated was brimming, and when I passed the bar examinations, overflowing. All my sacrifices paid off. My efforts were validated. Diligence and determination are great equalizers. I was later promoted to the position of branch clerk of court, and then as a legal officer for a government bank. From there, the bench was only a step away. But the blood, sweat, and tears it took me to get there will never be forgotten.
A woman in our society faces discrimination and inequality in many ways, more so a Muslim woman. Imagine the challenges times two, the insensitivity and prejudices can make one give up and at times simply walk out and never return. If it were not for a dream, my dream to be a judge, I would have long given up. The palpable prejudice, the baseless fear, and even the carefully disguised animosity can form a dark wall that shuts me out of the mainstream. But I refuse to be caged in. Instead, as with any challenge, I have learned to use what others think as my weaknesses or liabilities as my assets. I maximize my innate characteristics and traits as a woman, like my meticulous care, my organized ways, my patience, my industry, to be a better judge. In this, it cannot be denied that women judges have the advantage. The teachings of Islam are my guide, not just in my personal life, but in my professional life too. This unique combination has made me feel more anchored and confident as a judge. Today, I am a proud Muslim judge, and this is because I am a strong woman.
After 26 years of service, I'm grateful to say that my gender has not hindered me from achieving the goals I set out to accomplish. However, I do not discount the fact that some of the predominant patriarchal structures that have been deeply embedded in our history still remain. Therefore, women must incessantly strive to be ambitious, and through integrity and excellence, continuously erode any remaining barriers of gender inequality. Now, I'm proud to say that women judges in the lower courts already outnumber men. We have truly gone so far, and I am optimistic that it is only a matter of time before this trend catches up at the level of the collegiate courts, including the Supreme Court. After all, the test of judicial competence has never been based on gender, but on one's individual merits. The cause of justice should always be inclusive.
The Supreme Court takes the lead in mainstreaming gender sensitivity, inclusivity, and equality. Today, with this narrative, the Supreme Court opens the door wider to the entire spectrum of gender identities and resoundingly applauds our women jurists who have sacrificed their very lives in the service of our people.
8 women, 8 stories, 8 journeys, but only one shared purpose: service. Today, these women jurists stand tall with distinction in our midst, the bearers of our collective aspirations, the symbol of our fervent hopes. For the institution, for the nation, for the next generation. This is not just their story. This is our story.